Hey everybody, this is Steve, and together we can rebuild. It can be difficult to recover from pain and tragedy. The experience can burn itself into our memory and change the way we see the world. People remember where they were when they heard President Kennedy was shot, where they were when they heard the Challenger exploded, where they were when they heard the Twin Towers fell. I was in my dorm, getting ready for class when my mom called. You know that look people sometimes have when they're just white as a ghost, like they're petrified, like they've just experienced something terrible? That's how my mom sounded on the phone. She spoke frantically. She said she wasn't at work, she was at a conference, she was okay, not to worry, but that others needed to use the phone, so she had to go. You see, my mom worked at the World Trade Center in New York. Though on September 11th, she was, thank God, far from the destruction that I didn't even know about when I was talking to her on the phone. I didn't have a cell phone or anything at the time, so I didn't even know what my mom was talking about until I turned on the TV a few minutes later and saw the first tower fall. The nation grieved and continues to grieve, though it's a testament to the power of the human spirit that we can look through the ash and the haze and, amidst the twisted rubble, see the cross. A church building was part of the destruction that day, but it will also be part of our moving forward. The Orthodox parish of St. Nicholas was founded in 1916. 3 years later, the congregation raised enough money to buy the iconic whitewashed building that stood near the base of the Twin Towers, and was the home of the congregation for the next 8 decades. 8 decades of baptisms, 8 decades of funerals, 8 decades of liturgies and marriages, 8 decades of people walking in to say a prayer and light a candle on their way to work. 8 decades until that little church building was crushed under the weight of the collapsing Twin Towers. Those candles may have been snuffed out on September 11th, but God will not abandon us in the darkness. The light of Christ will never be extinguished. As St. John the Evangelist tells us, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. 13 years after September 11th, we finally have the opportunity to begin rebuilding St. Nicholas. Groundbreaking is scheduled for October, and the design of the new church building is incredible. The new St. Nicholas will sit on a hill in the middle of New York's financial district. It'll stand right next to the September 11th memorial and in the shadow of the new One World Trade Center. Imagine, in the middle of all these office buildings, in the middle of downtown New York, there will be one house of worship, a place where the divine liturgy will be celebrated and the kingdom of God will break through into this broken world of ours. The story of St. Nicholas, which began in 1916, is now tied up with the story of September 11th. So this new church building is going to include a bereavement and meditation space, where anyone can walk in to pray, to think, to be at peace in a safe and welcoming place. We can't pretend that we haven't suffered, that we haven't experienced real tragedy, but we can move forward. We can offer our troubles up to God, and we can welcome Him into our lives to heal us and to guide us. This resurrected St. Nicholas will be a reminder to us all that fear and sin and violence and death will never prevail. Nothing will ever defeat the hope and the life that God has prepared for us. As passers-by see the new St. Nicholas shining in the night, it will be a reminder to the millions upon millions who see it every year that nothing can overcome God's light. We can be a part of this powerful witness to the gospel. Together, we can rebuild. How can you help? Most importantly, pray. Please pray that this new St. Nicholas will be a light to the millions of people who will see it every year. The story of St. Nicholas is one of pain and loss, but also one of hope and renewal. It's a very human story, one that the whole world should hear. And you can share this story with your family and friends by doing something as simple as sharing this video. If you want to do even more, you can visit stnicholasgroundzero.org and give whatever you can. Every dollar we raise is one step closer to a new St. Nicholas. Whatever you decide to do is important and will be a part of the rebuilding of St. Nicholas. However we decide to give to this project, we can take away the reminder that we worship Christ, who suffered like we suffer, who leads us through any tragedy life throws at us. Remember, because of Christ, the cross is followed by the resurrection. And by the grace of God, and together with our humble prayers and help, the rubble and destruction of Ground Zero will give way to a new church building, a new St. Nicholas, a place of prayer and worship, for the peace and healing, not just of this city, but of the whole world. So let's be the bee and help rebuild St. Nicholas. Be the bee and live Orthodoxy. Remember to like and subscribe. I'll see you all next week.
So yeah, that one hits a little close to home, but it's going to be glorious when it's done. Questions, comments, requests, criticisms. I'll accept invective, Philippic. Thank you. You can either come up or I can repeat your question for the...
I just want to say thank you for all the work you're doing as a parent and as a religious educator and a FOIA advisor and all of those people who have wanted programming for our children.
Thank God, and pray that we don't stop with this, because hopefully this is just the beginning of wonderful things. But thank you.
Oh. If you have a child that just graduated from high school and they go on to college and their parish didn't expose them to this ministry, how do you reach the college students with this ministry on a daily basis? I mean, it seems that that's where we lose our kids, and this is probably where this would be the most important, and I just want to see how you connect them, if you have a means.
Yeah, there are a lot of college students around the country who watch. There are a lot of OCFs that are connected with it. So on some level, it's just kind of word of mouth, the way that these things tend to spread. I think when it comes to college students, in particular, I'm a huge fan of OCF, and I'm really a fan of their First 40 Days program that they have. So this program sort of it's built off of the insight that I think we're creatures of habit, and the cycles and the routines that we get into early on in our college experience kind of define the way that we you find a fraternity. Well, I'm going to just do this fraternity for 4 years, or you walk onto a sports team. I'll do the sports team for the next 4 years. That's what the data seems to indicate. So OCF, which is the college ministry, tries to find college students in their first 40 days of being on campus and tries to turn the Orthodox Christian Fellowship into a part of their routine, working off of the reasoning that if we can get them in their first 40 days, we'll be able to have them and work with them for the next 4 years. So not necessarily connecting them to a particular ministry, but connecting college students to the church. I think if you have any high school seniors or you know any college freshmen, the thing to do is find the OCF chapter wherever they're going and give them their name, give them their contact information. And God willing, OCF will be able to reach out to them, make sure that the student knows that OCF exists, and if they can find them early enough and bring them to some interesting meetings, then hopefully that'll be a part of their routine and their habits during the course of the next 4 years. So that I think is just kind of a high level, the best that we can do, I think, for college students. This in particular, it spreads. It spreads, God willing. Did something flash? Was I seeing that? Oh, okay. Anything else? I mean, again, not to put anybody on the spot, obviously, but please take down the email address. Please take down the phone number. If there's anything we can do, ever any sort of any content that we can cover, like I said, we've got a bunch of requests, but if there's anything we can do, we'll do it. We're hoping to give you more. I can talk a little bit just before I go. These are sort of our goals. We would love to be able to do an introduction to Orthodoxy as a video series. Just sort of like a standalone, like 20-25 part series. It's just kind of a general introduction to the faith. God willing, one day we're working on it. We'd love to be able to do an introduction to the services. That's also something that we're working on, because I think that's important. We'd love to be able to do an introduction to the Bible, have like a couple of episodes on each book of the Bible going through, and we'd love to be able to do a kind of what's the difference series, Orthodoxy compared with other faiths. So I feel like that's also an important thing for youth. So we are still looking, because it's just me and Alexis now, it's just two of us in the department, but if there's anybody out there who has skills researching or writing and would love to be able to, circle up with us and see if there's ways that we can work together to make these a reality tomorrow rather than 5 years from now, let me know.
There's you and Alexis and then the technical staff, right, that does the filming and editing?
That's my friend Steve. He does the filming, and then my friend Steve Anos, he does the editing. He's a handsome guy. But no, that's so. So this is the earlier episode that I did was like a new introduction that I filmed recently. Is our 47th episode now. Just to kind of see, if you're curious, if you want to go back on YouTube and watch the first episode, it was rough. It was immature. It was like a seedling just beginning to poke through the dirt. But actually, I mean, even there, you can pull wonderful meaning out of that. Like, even that's a message that I've taken to kids too. Like, and I think it's also a message for all of us in our parishes. Don't wait for things to be perfect. Don't wait for things to be fully thought through. Jump in and trust in God, because He will take a terrible-looking YouTube series where the host looks like he's jaundiced and he's got seriously, I look like an Oompa Loompa in the first one, like just orangey and whatever. And like, it's not perfect, obviously. Like, it's never going to get millions of views. I mean, there aren't millions of Christians or Orthodox Christians in the country, but we do what we can, ultimately, and God takes care of the rest. We throw our seeds, and God willing, they grow. So.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Father.
At the last Archdiocese Council meetings, and the youth department was talking, one of the topics that came up was the Archdiocese is producing wonderful materials, and you're going out to parishes and trying to connect people to each other and connect them to the faith. But the question was, kids can connect on one level or another, but it might not translate into them getting back into a local parish. Mm-hmm. Ultimately going back into the family and the body of Christ in a more integral way and within their own lives. Lots of college kids that may do some of these things, but never find their way into the local parish's doors while they're in college. And I know that was like a question that came up, and it was kicked around a little bit during the meeting. Have you given a little bit more thought to that? And obviously, what's going on in the parish has a lot to do with whether, if they come in, if they're going to stay in or not. But any thoughts along those lines?
Yeah, something that sort of betrays, I guess, my own theological leanings, but also something that I try to throw in I try to make every episode as Eucharistic as I possibly can. And I try to always make some reference to the Divine Liturgy, or I'll try to at least have like an image of the Divine Liturgy, because I think that's, because I forget where we were talking about this, but the church is not simply the building, right? The church building is the place where the church comes together to be most fully itself, right, in the liturgy. So that's important. And I mean, if people are just watching this video at home and not doing anything with it, it's incomplete. And so I try to add kind of subtle reminders to this, like a camp video that we did. In big bold letters, I put "Connect with your parish." So that was not so subtle reminder. But it's always there. I mean, I'm very conscious of tying it back to the liturgy, and sometimes it's more subtle than others. So that's kind of at least a seed that's there to remind people that there's a very physical act that needs to happen with all of this. It's not just about the thought, and it's not just about thinking about these things in the abstract. I'm open to ideas as to other ways to do it. So I don't know. I'm trying to keep it relatively subtle and sort of within the kind of style of the show, but that's kind of the one minor resolution. I don't know if it's good enough to have those references repeated there, but I'm open to suggestions, and if you think that's good enough, not good enough. So, His Eminence said subliminal, which I think works. Go to church, that's right.
Hi, Steve. I already told you my son loves you. He watches you every week or whenever you guys do the show. I had a thing called Goya Rap when I was in Columbus, and I'm trying to get it reinstituted in East Pittsburgh. But what we used to do is we would have a meeting with the kids, like a little rap session, and the kids would actually give us questions anonymously on a piece of paper, and we would answer them with the Orthodox mindset and the Orthodox theology. Now, I don't know if you guys are thinking about something like that, where maybe they can go online and ask questions every day about their everyday lives that they're maybe not comfortable talking to their parents about, where you can give them Orthodox answers.
Thank you for this, because that's actually something that I forgot to put in the presentation. There's this website called ask.fm, which a lot of kids use, and it's a way for people to just sort of anonymously, if they choose, ask questions of others, and kids waste lots of time on it. So what we did is we created our own username on it. So if you go to ask.fm/Y2AM, you can actually find our page, and we get a lot of questions from kids who ask questions anonymously, and sometimes it's prayer requests, or sometimes it's like, what do you do when, like, my yaya passed away recently and I'm feeling really sad, what do I do? So, sometimes because it's difficult to be vulnerable, being able to ask an anonymous question helps. I think that's the perfect way to do it in a parish, and this is kind of a digital way to do it. We're just trying to keep up with the volume of it at this point, and so we're trying to figure out ways to. So ask.fm/Y2AM, and unfortunately we have a growing backlog of questions that we haven't been able to get to just yet. We try to get to it as often as we can, but it's a resource, and there's some tough questions that kids have asked. And maybe it's the sort of question they wouldn't ask face-to-face, because, how do you ask somebody face-to-face? Like, what do you do when you're struggling with lustful thoughts? Or, what do you do when you're struggling with suicidal thoughts? These are the sorts of things that sometimes you need that veil to protect you, I guess. So it's there. We're trying to keep up with it. We've got a lot of, it's like those old sort of acts, like the plate spinners. You're just kind of like running back and forth, trying to keep the plates spinning. It's kind of, I feel like, what we're doing at this point. So God willing, we'll have more hands soon. But no, that's a beautiful idea. Thank you, Father. Seminarian involvement. Oh yeah. This is something that we're steadily trying to cultivate. The sort of round one of seminarian involvement, because I think this is just an important thing for the church as a whole. Unity rather than disunity, and cooperation rather than the opposite, because we are tiny, and it's kind of like, as Eminence was saying before, I think we can sometimes fall into sort of a parochial, almost congregationalist, like, parish, and we forget the Metropolis, or Metropolis and forget the Archdiocese, and Archdiocese and forget, whatever. And I think the school falls into that as well, that there's a lot of very bright, hardworking people who are doing stuff at school, and we're not necessarily coming up with ways to use that for the wider ministry. So that's kind of where Exegenes comes in. We're trying to use some of the research of people at school to help us out. We're going to reach out and try to get some more interns possibly to help out as well, because I think there's seminarians who can help us maybe with writing some of these YouTube series, maybe answering some of these questions and so forth. No, and I think it's a good experience for young men and women who are going through the program. The ambassadors program is another wonderful resource. I was an ambassador when I was at school. We've kind of talked about possibly ways that we can work with them, since I'm going out and doing retreats. They're going out and doing retreats. Maybe they can use B2B while they do their retreats. We can work together potentially. we're all on the same side. We might as well figure out ways that we can work together and help each other out.
Thank you, Steve. Great job.
Thanks.
Just a comment. I would imagine the ideas and categories could be endless. I just thought of one idea here. This time of year, some of us think of parish council seminars because next month they're going to be coming up and so forth. And with your kind of dynamic, kind of charisma, fast-paced kind of clips, little messages, I think it'd be great to, if you could package them. And you could even think, send them to priests for parish council seminars. The clip that you did on the numbers, we're so focused on the numbers, and the anecdote that you gave about the Goya, 1 Goya versus 50, that was awesome. That was just a fantastic way of, in a short way of putting a little clip that really gives a spiritual message. And obviously you're not going to have a whole parish council on B's and B's, but little clips, it's just an endless, you could package it for something like a parish council seminar. So keep going. It's really beautiful material that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll talk more after the session, because no worries, it's loud. Well, the other thing I should say about cooperation too is I think we can be better even at the Archdiocese in terms of our departments working together. And like Melissa actually sent an email out to us, so those of us from the Archdiocese who are here are going to try to get coffee and sort of break down some of these artificial walls and work together. So I think it's kind of a thing we should all be aspiring to, whatever level that we're at, between levels and so forth. Again, we're all one body, we're all on the same page. Might as well talk to each other. We're stuck with each other for eternity, right? So we might as well work with each other.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
Good job. Good job, Steve.
Thanks.
So when you and I were at seminary, we had a lot of time to sit around and talk about tough issues, as most seminarians do. But I find that once we get out in the world, in the parish setting, especially with youth, the tough topics, and I'm hoping you can address this from the youth protection manual perspective. A lot of tough topics that we don't want to avoid. We also can't just go out and do a Goya session on internet pornography or address these issues with our youth. So is there anything the Archdiocese has put out or can put out about re-educating the clergy on the pastoral approaches to these tough topics? Because they are somewhat individual, yet they have to be addressed with the whole things that we talked about, that you talk about when you're young, thinking, oh, I'm going to go out and change the world when it comes to internet pornography, and the 90% of, or 70% of the men in our parishes that talk about it, but never actually talk about it to the 70% of the men that are there.
Yeah. So institutionally, I guess the Youth Protection Manual itself, I think the Youth Protection Manual is a good first step, but I think there's improvements that can be done to it. So I think there needs to be efforts to update it and make it more applicable just to kind of parish-wide. And I think it also needs to address things like this. Like I sort of look through, speaking sort of in a non-official capacity, I look through sometimes, and it seems to me like some of the overly strict policies that might have been there about being friends on social media with youths and so forth, are things that maybe impede ministry if we're those are the complaints that I'm getting. Sometimes I've heard these complaints too, that you're not allowed to maybe talk about certain things that need to be talked about. So I think it's an area that's ripe for reevaluation, and I think it's something that we need to be better about as a department. Like we're hopefully going to find somebody to be able to be a full-time person to take the lead on updating the YPM, making it available to parish ministry generally, and hopefully unrolling these protections across the Archdiocese. Because I think that needs to be the next step. Like YPM can't simply be a camp thing. I think it needs to be a youth ministry thing generally. So that is on the table as an institutional thing, but I think that's also a good point. Like these protections should be there to facilitate ministry, not impede ministry. And if we feel like there are certain things that we can't talk about, like that seems like it impedes ministry. So I don't know what the answer is in the abstract, but I know that we need to address it. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Jim.
One comment and then also suggestion. Again, thank you for everything you do. A lot of these lesson plans are going to be very helpful for some of us, especially working with the Joy and Hope age. One plug for Stephen and Alexis is they can only do what their 4 arms and 4 legs can do. we have to put these things on our pages, on our websites, they're buttons. You know, if we don't know about, if we don't put Be the Bee on our websites, nobody's gonna know about it. You see what happened with the question box to the Archdiocese that Father Stanley Heracus had started. It disappeared. People use it. I was answering questions when I was in seminary. That was my field ed project. Nobody wrote. We got 3 emails a month. I mean, things fall apart unless they're promoted within the parishes. One suggestion would be to do something maybe in collaboration or like they're doing with the Center of Family Care, webinars. The webinars have been awesome. Once a month for an hour. I mean, for the youth workers, for those of us that are out there, just to interact with you a little more, maybe do some, this is how you can have a Steady Joy program, or a Steady Goya program, or YAL. I think YAL is something, or what is it now? Real. Real. I think that's something we're all struggling with. Not just me, not just, you know, Father Michael, whoever's here from the other communities. So that's just a suggestion, is maybe some webinars for us. The Be the Bee is great for the kids and for us, but a way for us to communicate with you.
Other ministers on the ground.
Yeah, would be awesome.
I think that's a great idea. It's a great idea. I mean, is that the sort of thing? Because I know I've been invited out to parishes to do youth worker training. Like, is that the sort of thing that people would be interested in if I was available on a once a month or once a quarter or whatever it is? All right. Okay. We'll work on that then. Maybe we'll create a survey or something to find the kind of topics that people want to talk about. Thank you. Thank you.
Keep traveling. Once you go somewhere once, you become like, everyone feels like they know you and they're passionate.
Yeah. And keep traveling. I will do my best. About once or twice a month. I can't leave home all that often.
How long have you been married now?
It's going to be a year on October 6th. So yeah, it's good times. Going once, going twice, sold. Sorry, in your way.
The Youth Protection Manual was mentioned, and we do have copies. The abbreviated Youth Protection, it does say for camp staff, but this is actually for events. If you should have a retreat in your parish, etc. Very helpful for not only clergy, but anyone here in the room to see what the expectations are. Just very, very quickly, since we know at the plenary we won't have all of your participation, we do have at the table, and we will be passing out at the door when you leave tonight, calendars, our youth ministry calendars, and our dates for summer camp. And why this is very important now is we always start on Father's Day, or at least we have been for the past several years. This year, Father's Day is June 21st, 2015. So please mark your calendars so you can plan these. Please make sure that these get up in your parishes where they're seen. They'll also be on the website, available at 8.5 by 11, so that you can put in your parish bulletins, your bi-monthly bulletins. And coming up, we have Father Michael Gavrilis. I just want to point out just very quickly what we have coming up this fall in our youth ministries. Father Michael is, of course, from St. Paul and North Royalton, and he will speak to you on the Folk Dance Festival. One of our ministries, Folk Dance, Michelle Petzagrelis, our chair from the Metropolis Youth Commission.
Hello everyone again. Like Ria said, we are hosting at St. Paul the 24th annual Metropolis of Pittsburgh Folk Dance Festival. Unlike other metropolises, this is a non-competitive event. It is a love of the Greek culture and the Greek dance program. First and foremost, as Steve said in one of his videos that we saw today, what we need from you is your prayers. We need prayers that this is a very well-run event. We need prayers that everyone gets there safely, everyone returns safely, and that they have tons and tons and tons of fun. This is a wonderful opportunity to bring the youth of our metropolis back together. It's not a retreat, it's not basketball, it's a mutual love for Greek dancing. It's November 1st and 2nd. We have 3 wonderful instructors coming from throughout the country for this program. It's the first time St. Paul is hosting the event. I know growing up, I went to it starting in 2001 at St. Constantine and Helen in Cleveland Heights, and I've been to every one since then except one. Another way you can help out, of course, is financially. If you're unable to send a group, we have a souvenir album, and you can place an ad in that souvenir album or a well wish list from anywhere from $20 to a patron ad up to $100 for a full page ad. This is a wonderful opportunity. In the past, it wasn't really marketed as for everyone. This is both for groups, and if you're from a small parish, maybe you're able to send one, maybe you're able to send 2 delegates from your parish to come to this event. And with that, at the end of the event, approximately a month and a half to 2 months after the event, you will get a DVD of all the instructions that were taught that weekend. And you'll also get a DVD of all the performances that have gone on throughout the weekend. So maybe that 1 or 2 delegates can be the people to start the program up again. Again, it's a wonderful opportunity. I'm very passionate about it. I love it. I Greek danced up until a week and a half before my ordination to the diaconate, and wish I could still be doing it today. Big, small parish, doesn't matter. It's a family event. It's wonderful. With His Eminence's blessing, we also invited the churches from the Metropolis of Detroit as well, and we have confirmation on 3 of the churches coming from them. So not only is it a Metropolis event, but we're opening it up to the other youth of the Metropolis for fun and fellowship and worship. And if you have any questions, please see me the rest of the weekend, and it's a great opportunity. Thank you.